talk about the NBA, and we try to look cool doing it. I'm Micah, and I'm one of the hosts here. I'm also drinking a wonderful craft beer tonight. And I'll go ahead and show this. And this is from Aslan Brewing out of Herndon, Virginia, or Northern Virginia, DC. It's called Nuances of a Meaning. It's an IPA. I don't know what it tastes like, but we're going to find out. I'm going to open it. And that's the sound of carbonation leaving a can. And I'm going to pour it a little bit. And
I like that you're leading us with your hand.
And it's got a nice color. And
describe the smell.
It's
anything.
Very, very citrusy, and it reminds me a lot of a very light carbonated citrusy.
Where does it take you?
That's nice. It's real clean. It's not real bitter. Yeah, that's good. That's good. So Aslan Brewing Company. So that I got going on. I'm joined tonight by my super cool co-host, the Grand Slam, Zakhammer. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I like it. Nothing much. Doing good. Chilling. Hanging out.
Heck yeah.
I like that you had part in giving me that nickname, and actually I'm using that for the YouTube. So anyway.
Cool. And then I've also got with me the world breaker.
My frozen.
Dulk Banner. What's up, D?
Yeah, what's up, Micah? What's up, Zach?
So, how are y'all doing tonight? What are y'all into?
Chilling.
Yeah, I'm just trying to catch up on some highlights. I was finishing up a little bit of that Miami Heat game and on to the next game. I'm not sure what this is. Rockets and something. Rockets Jazz, maybe. I think.
Yeah. I got the Lakers and Pacers on behind me here. Alex Caruso's laying on the floor. Now he's like walking around. He's like, oh man, I fell on the floor, guys. I'm Alex Caruso. Yeah. But anyway.
He must dunked on somebody.
So tonight we're discussing NBA stuff, crazy NBA stuff, possible NBA trade stuff. I think we're going to get into the trading block tonight and what's going on. There's also a lot of COVID crap going on in the world of basketball. And we'll also probably talk a little bit about UVA and college basketball and Duke. And then, of course, we're probably going to bring up the MVP race and talk about the playoff picture with the Eastern and Western Conference. But fortunately, I'm going to kick off the show tonight talking about Myers Leonard. Myers Leonard is suspended indefinitely due to an anti-Semitic slur. The Heat say Myers Leonard will be away from the team. Leonard apologized for using the term as he played a video game that was live streaming, insisting he did not know what it meant. From what I understand, he apparently made something that was criticizing and bad towards the Jewish community. I mean, I don't know like what's going on there, but right now in the world, and you just can't do that, period. You shouldn't ever do anything like that. And I believe that he's probably figured himself out, and I'm sure he'll be back, but it is a real sad situation for him and the Heat. I know he brings a lot to the Heat team as far as basketball IQ goes and being a good bench guy, but Yeah, man. You can't be on a live stream like video gaming with people and saying stuff like that, even if you didn't know. I mean, but yeah.
No.
Yeah, I
So,
think he also got slapped with a $50,000 fine as well.
ooh, 50 grand.
Is that a lot to them though?
Probably not.
That's like a $5 parking ticket.
Yeah, for us, it's unfortunately it's the same price as a luxury suburban. Something we'll never drive. No.
Yeah, I know.
Well, maybe we
Oh
will
well.
one day. Who knows? But yeah. So also the Spurs have announced that they are going to trade LA. Lamarcus Aldridge, Mr. Mid-range himself. I wonder where he'll go and what team will bite for him. I'm sure that he could be useful in plenty of systems, whether they're a mega team or a semi mega team or even a good birthing playoff team. So there's Zach. There's a lot of trade talks going on, and I just mentioned Lamarcus Aldridge. I know you'd probably like to see him land in Portland because that's your team. But outside of that, I know there's several other players like Hassan Whiteside.
PJ Tucker now.
Yeah, PJ Tucker's a big one. Andre Drummond is a huge one. That's going on. What stands out to you? What do you think's going to be a big thing?
I don't know. It's a lot of weight, shifting. A lot of good big guys. You know, that can be a difference maker. I mean, even though Hassan Whiteside is kind of lazy, he can ball. He's a hell of a center. And to a contender, if he's willing, if these guys are willing to come off the bench, in some circumstances, granted, a few of them won't have to. I don't know, man. You could take a team that would be possible and then, you could dominate because then you got a whole second unit that's just as dominating as the first one. And then speaking of Drummond, which we'll take a side note in LA, I'll just assume that he's going to end up in Portland just for old time's sake. But I mean, if Drummond ends up in like, say, with the Clippers, defensively, that's pretty intense.
Yeah, that's a big pick. That would be big for the Clippers.
Real big.
But what would they have to give up for him though?
I don't know. Isn't he he's not bought out, right? So he does have to be traded.
I don't know if he can be. Derek, can he be bought out? Do you know?
I mean, he can be bought out if they come to the terms of an agreement. But I think that right now they're going to try to do everything they can to trade him because there's reports saying that they have a few suitors already. So I'm assuming like they got something to work with, but it's not enough as far as what they want. So I don't think they're going to let him go for nothing, but you never know. Maybe the other teams might back out if they feel like, okay, we don't want to give this much up if this guy doesn't want to stay here.
Yeah, true. I think maybe, I feel like that the two teams that he would benefit the most being on, I think he should probably stay in the Eastern Conference. I think that Boston would be a great place for him. I also think that Charlotte would be a crazy place for him to go.
I mean, when you talk about Drummond, you have to, I guess, figure out what he wants first. I mean, he seemed like the type of player when he did get traded, because I think he still has some contract left on with the Cavs. When he got traded, he just, I think signed the extension this past summer. So I think his priorities might not be to win a championship. So he could be on some place like Charlotte where he's a huge supporter, but he can just kind of take a backseat as far as being the go-to guy. But if he wants to win, he might, have a say as far as what teams would like to go. Boston has assets where they could trade for him. And then ultimately, if he's bought out, I mean, he can go anywhere he wants to at that point.
Scary.
It is scary, but like what you were saying, Zach, if he ends up on the Clippers, just depending on who the Clippers would give up, still, you had a big three right there of Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and Andre Drummond, and then say you're still able to keep a player like Pat Beverly and some of the other defensive assets that they have on that team. And even keep Zubac as a backup. I mean, that's a huge deal. But I mean, if he was traded, I don't see Zubac staying on the team. He would have to be in that trade. No. But
I mean, he's already really. I don't know. I mean, I hate to look at numbers as far as somebody contributing to a team, but I don't know that he's doing as much as he was necessarily last year. I don't know if it's going to keep slowing down, or I don't know, because he seemed like he was on a roll and then kind of dropped off. I don't know if it was when I think he got injured at some point, but anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the Cavs as well, because you have to consider what they're wanting in return for Drummond. I mean, Jared Allen being traded to their team, they're rolling with him as a starting center. They still have Larry Nance there that plays power forward and backup center. I would assume at some point they're going to want to move on from Kevin Love. He's kind of like dead weight for them as far as salary. If they can get something for him, that'd be great. So at that point, I'm assuming they're just kind of building for the future, but they're almost a borderline playoff team, but not this year, I don't think. Just next year, as far as you get everything situated with the players that you want to get rid of, and just keep an eye on what you want to bring back as far as assets, and then just roll with your two guards and Garland and Sexton, and then like I said, you have Jared Allen, and Larry Nance Jr. is not that old either. So if you want to keep him, you have 4 out of 5 quality starters there.
Yeah, and Allen and when they got Allen in the whole Harden deal, that was pretty. I mean, that kind of told you that Drummond was going to be moved at some point in time, because they have McGee too. I mean, he's just he's always, a really great bench player, but
now he might be somebody to watch out for. He could possibly get bought out if the Cavaliers decide to just move on from him, figuring that they don't really need him and they might not have any suitors for a trade.
He would be a really good pickup for a Western Conference team, like Denver. Or even higher, or even if Phoenix picked him up just to come off the bench, I mean, him and CP3 could probably roll pretty well together, on that minimum. But yeah, that is a player that nobody's really talking about that could, potentially get bought out and then be a factor on a big team in the playoffs. Totally. So what about LA? What do you think is going to happen with this guy? I know that he's been in trade rumors for the past like 3 or 4 seasons, but what do y'all think?
I had mentioned to y'all earlier, I think that some of these big players, as far as big guys physically, I think it's just kind of like a domino effect game where some teams are possibly just waiting to see what's going to happen with Drummond. Not that you might want to throw all your chips in for him, but if you're a contending team and you feel like that's one guy that's possibly going to get bought out and you want to make your pitch, you want to save one of your roster slots for somebody like that can potentially come to you. And then as we go further down, and if he does find a landing spot or eventually gets traded, then maybe you see more news about the other guys, like if a JaVale McGee gets bought out, where he could go. DeMarcus Cousins, we haven't mentioned him yet, or Lamarcus Aldridge. But I feel like he probably would get traded. I wouldn't mind seeing him in Boston because of his mid-range game. But I mean, a team who wants to pick him up also has to consider that he doesn't shoot the 3 ball very frequently. Like if you're looking for a stretch big, I mean, he can knock it down a little bit, but I think that's how he got to this term with, the Spurs after last year's bubble playoff run, where they didn't make the playoffs, but they were trying to get in. Greg Popovich specifically liked the system that he had set up when he was running like a small 2-guard lineup with Derek White and DeJounte Murray on the floor. And reports this year were coming out that he wanted to keep with the small ball and have Aldridge shoot more threes. And I don't think he's comfortable with taking a high volume of threes in a game. So yeah, if you want that semi old school back to the basket post player, I describe his his post mid range game kind of like Anthony Davis. He just doesn't stretch the floor out as much, and defensively he can't do as much. So maybe a second or third tier Anthony Davis is what you might be able to compare him to. Like he's not spry or young like Anthony Davis, but as far as knowledge and how you can use him on the court on offense, he's definitely a guy to target. He can still score, like Zach said. So it's not an issue there as far as the product that you're getting. You just have to utilize it and know that he might be limited in some aspects.
Yeah. Zach, if he ends up in Portland, how do you think that would work?
I don't know. I mean, this year would probably be different than future years. Maybe I would say just because Collins coming back and Nurkic coming back, which granted Nurkic, I guess could be coming back soon. I haven't really seen anything where they've given a timetable. They're just kind of like, he'll be reevaluated. So, but as of now, Kanter's been doing pretty well. So I don't know. It's it's like CP3 was saying when they beat him the other day. They're not the full team. So when they're already doing so well together, granted, I would love to see LA there. Maybe not mess up some of that chemistry. I mean, Kanter's really balling out. He stepped up when Nurkic got hurt. So anyway, I don't know. I think that would be amazing. I think that I definitely think Lillard wants him there for sure, which is, that's your guy. So, as far as that team, if that's, with McCollum out and everything that's been going on there, I don't know. I think that'd be fun. I know that I think it was 2019, Lillard did some post about wanting to see LA there, and LA did some comment or whatever. But
so they played together. They played together for a little
Portland.
bit, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Before he
left. They just didn't have. I don't know. They were at different points in their career. They're definitely way more mature people. They've both admitted that. I mean, Lillard had it, and he had. So I don't know. That'd be nice though. But I was thinking too. Speaking of like surprises for me, the Hornets being 6, like what if he went there? Like that would be, granted, I don't know if that would take Zeller out or Zeller would come off the bench, or if they would still need somebody else, and if that's a waste of I don't know what the cap space or how much he would be paid or whatever, but
well, with the Hornets, I think that PJ Washington kind of fills that role as that big man that stretches the floor and can play in the post. Even though he's not a real tall big man, but he's a heck of a 3-point shooter, and he's really good in the paint, and he can stretch the floor. So I mean, and he's got youth, and I don't like I when I look at Charlotte and they could make some moves to try to pick some people up. PJ Watt, if they try to trade for Lamarcus Aldridge, the Spurs would want PJ Washington in that trade and probably Bridges. And I don't think you give up both of them for Lamarcus Aldridge.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
I just like throwing in crazy stuff like that.
Yeah. It is crazy. I mean, if he went there, he would still ball. It would, they would have him and Hayward. They have two good vets on the team. I mean, Biyombo is a vet. So is Zeller. They've been in the league a long time.
Yeah.
And then and they got Rozier, he's been a monster this year. And of course, Graham can score the hell out of the ball. And then you got, LaMelo, who's I hope is rookie of the year.
But, I feel like he should be.
Yeah. But on that, Derek, I was going to ask you is, what, like, as far as the trade market, what trade do you think needs to happen to kind of bolster the mega team, like the Nets or the Bucks or the Sixers, or in the West, like the Lakers, Clippers, Suns, Jazz, or the lower seed playoff team? So what player out here could make a huge difference on one of those teams?
Just speaking of some of the players we mentioned, and when I talked to your bud 36 the other day, he had mentioned Lamarcus Aldridge potentially going to Miami Heat or the New York Knicks. I think that would be a pretty decent fit. And when I spoke my piece about that, I think Miami could definitely use a player of his caliber to help make a further push, because they did make it to the finals last year as Eastern Conference champs. So not losing anything, but adding him would definitely help. And just from New York Knicks, I don't see them really, as far as being a deep playoff run team. I think they still make the playoffs, but just for a New York perspective of getting another name as far as an NBA player that's, kind of commonly known as far as people who watch the NBA, it wouldn't hurt them to maybe try to get him there just as an attraction standpoint, just to make it look like, okay, we have an all-star with Julius Randle, and we're trying to get more talent here, serious about winning this year going forward. But as far as the East, I'm most concerned about Boston because of several different reasons. I just felt like they would be better than what they are. And then obviously they've had some injuries with Kemba being out and Smart being out at different times throughout the season. But also with COVID, with Jason Tatum being a positive test with COVID the other month and missing a couple weeks of games, he said it himself that his lungs don't have the same capacity as they did before. So he's trying to, I guess, recondition or see what happens with that. So he's not really performing at the consistent level that we think he should be performing at. So I think we need to see Boston pull off something. And they do have a bunch of picks. So this is a team that could be in serious contention for Aldridge, or maybe they're one of the teams that Cleveland's not mentioning that, can possibly get Drummond. So they have things to work with without giving up their core group of guys, which is Kemba, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Marcus Smart.
Mm-hmm.
So you throw him in there. And if you kept one of your veterans like Daniel Tice or somebody like that, then you got a pretty well-rounded team that can help you to compete. I'm assuming that they're getting into the second round, help them get into, the conference finals potentially. But I mean, as far as Milwaukee, Philly, and Brooklyn, I think they just maybe have to pick up on some of the minor guys that are left out there, like Zach had mentioned, like a PJ Tucker type of guy, because there's going to be guys out there that are going to want to be on a winning situation. So either three of those teams, you can't go wrong. But right now, Boston looks like they're definitely missing something. And then, like I said, just don't sleep on the Miami Heat as far as teams that could definitely make it out of the first round of the playoffs, depending on matchups. Then heading to the West, I mean, the biggest thing there would be right now for me would be the Lakers because of the Anthony Davis situation. You don't want to see him come back too early and have an injury, and then he misses the rest of the season and or next season if it's definitely a tear in his Achilles like Kevin Durant had happened to him in the 2019 finals. But, outside of that, as far as them being that being a main focus for them as far as finding another quality big guy. Obviously, Drummond was a name that was thrown out there as far as him being matched up with the Lakers. If he gets bought out, I'm not sure if that's going to happen. Yeah, I would definitely like to see Aldridge go to Portland, like Zach had mentioned. I think they would welcome him with open arms, and he'd have a warm reception with that. But a team that needs something else added, the Dallas Mavericks, because they're lower than what I expected them to be at this point in the season. And they just need some help down low. So they're definitely in search of a big man. And like I said earlier, this might be a waiting game for them as well, where they might have some things they could trade, but they might be willing to, skip on Drummond if they're asking too much and get the next quality big. And that might be Aldridge. They might have to go get him and make him their top priority. And then maybe if they couldn't get him, I don't know if Cousins would fit there as far as personality wise. I could see him going back to the Lakers and being fine there. Yeah. But like I said, I feel like everything's a domino effect with these bigs. Blake Griffin went pretty fast, so I would have to say there was probably several factors there. They probably had some inside conversations among players, and then another big factor being that his former teammate DeAndre Jordan being already there as a Brooklyn Net, I'm sure certainly helped the case for him to want to come there. So like I said, he went pretty fast, but again, he was bought out, so everything was pretty upfront with him. So right now, some of these other teams that are wanting trades, they're just, like I said, don't want to give up anybody for nothing in particular.
Yeah, I know you text me and Zach earlier, and you were like, yeah, the Nets are basically the Oklahoma City Thunder from 2012, some of the Oklahoma City Thunder, and then some of the Clippers from back then.
And if
Kyrie.
you basically go back 2 years ago and look at both of those teams' big three, you took 2/3 from each. So that's basically what they have in their starting lineup, 10 years later, basically with all those players being in their 30s, and then plugging in Kyrie, who's I think about 28 years old right now.
Wasn't Jeff Green on the Clippers then?
I'm not sure where he was then. Jeff Green's been all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was filling in some role somewhere.
Yeah, I think, and you brought up Dallas and made me really think there for a second. I think that maybe, Drummond probably wouldn't be a great fit in Dallas. I think that LA would be a great fit in Dallas.
I don't see Dallas really meshing well with the Drummond type of person. You do need somebody who can kind of get out the paint a little bit when you're talking about Dragic and Porzingis. Like I said, Aldridge might not shoot the three real frequently, but he can operate outside of the paint area from the baseline there.
Yeah, and even if they picked up Aldridge and PJ Tucker, if they got both of them, that would be pretty sick. That would definitely make their roster very solid.
Now Tucker is somebody I see being bought out. I don't think there's going to be a decent trade there as far as them seeking a whole lot and getting a whole lot in return. So I would say most likely he will be on the buyout market. And then obviously he's going to target definitely teams that look like they should be either in the conference finals or definitely the finals. So, just a handful of teams there that he's going to want to go to.
Yeah. Well, on that wraps up our first half. The first half of this segment of Tavern Geek NBA basketball. We'll be back for the second half after halftime, after we get some of the Zakhammer juice, like the Michael Jordan juice from Space Jam. The Zakhammer juice and his
I like it.
His old plastic Okay, this is getting a little too weird. Okay. But yeah, we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Yep, we'll be back.
All right, so are we not recording now?
We're still on.
What's up, everybody? Micah's back. Zach's back. Derek's back. D's back. Dolk Banner. Immortal Hulk. Zach Zakhammer. But we're back for the second half of our Tavern Geek podcast, where we talk about NBA basketball. And we just got done talking about the trading block that's going on right now, and like all these players that are out there that could be acquired. And we're going to jump over and we're going to talk about the crazy playoff picture that's going on. So we have the Eastern Conference, and the top 6 seeds are quite interesting. I'm going to just read them off real quick, and then we'll get to some commentating. But we have Philadelphia in the 1 seed. They're tied up with Brooklyn. And then we have Milwaukee. Then we have Boston. Then we have the Knicks and the Heat. Now, has that changed since I put this on the Google Doc yesterday?
Yeah, it's Philly is 1 game up on Brooklyn.
Okay.
And then but you still have them number 2, Milwaukee number 3, Boston 4, Miami 5, and then Knicks 6.
Okay. Cool. All right. So speaking of that, I think the biggest thing that stands out with this Eastern Conference is the Knicks. They were the laughing stock of the NBA last year, and here they are sitting in the middle of the playoffs. I think Tom Thibodeau has a lot to do with that, because he's just an old school, hard-nosed coach. He's coached some great players out there, got them going in the right direction, and Julius Randle is really balling out this year. I really like him as a player. Yeah, man. Derek, man, what do you think, man? What do you think about these Knicks?
I mean, I'm glad you just mentioned Tibbs, because shout out to him, because his track record shows it. Like you just said, like he's got a big deal to do with the reason why the Knicks are where they're at. Because you look at the teams he used to coach, the Chicago Bulls. Obviously, we know what he did with them, and made Derrick Rose an MVP. But then when he went to Minnesota, a team that hadn't made the playoffs in years since Kevin Garnett was there. And obviously they had Jimmy Butler the year that they made it. But he put together an ensemble that made the playoffs for a team that, again, was towards the bottom in the West, and once again are towards the bottom in the West. But for the Knicks, same thing. Like he's proven that now, that he's a good quality coach when you put him in the right system and you let him work his people in the system that he wants. Obviously, them getting Derrick Rose was probably influenced by him as well. But that's one of his go-to guys he's had on the last 3 teams that he's coached. So, but yeah, overall, he's given Julius Randle plenty of opportunity. The only thing we're probably not seeing a whole lot of is maybe like a player like Obi Toppin. I think Emmanuel quickly is starting to get a little bit more playing time. But if you keep track of how Coach Tibbs likes to play the veterans versus the rookies, he definitely gives the veterans the freedom to play and plays them pretty heavily. But the rookies, on the other hand, sometimes have a hard time getting plenty of minutes in the system. So somebody like Toppin might not emerge like you think he would, being a rookie on a bad team coming into the season. But he's definitely helped to turn this franchise around. And what I mentioned earlier in the first take of this episode was that maybe they need to get another named player up there just to attract more attention to their franchise, so they can get these free agents that they missed out on, especially when they missed it big with Kyrie and Durant. I mean, obviously it's up to the players when they're of that caliber where they want to go, because they're going to get paid either way. But the New York Knicks used to be a big name in the 90s, and it just kind of faded away completely in the 2010s. So maybe Tibbs is here to bring it back. But yeah, definitely I see them in the playoffs. I think they're probably going to be positioned where they're at. I would say, I'm just going to say they're still going to be the 6th seed, maybe off one spot or the other, but maybe just hold there and play the first round. I don't have a lot of high hopes for them because of matchups, but you never know. So I'll say they get exited out in the first round. But hey, that's a huge step in the right direction. assuming that they don't add any more pieces and nothing changes, they should be right there.
Well, yeah. Rachel Nichols said the other day on the Jump, she was like, even if the Knicks don't make the playoffs, this is huge. This is still huge for them. Just being where they were last season to here. So that's pretty. It's yeah.
A big thing for me that I try to pay attention to as well, especially even if you're playing somebody like that plays fantasy basketball, what you want to look for sometimes in players are the players that go to the All-Star game, especially if they're like a first time All-Star, and see how that influenced their game the rest of the season. So they've earned the spot just grinding hard. But now you have this mentality of, okay, especially if you're the only All-Star on your team, you're kind of wanting to be more of a leader. Maybe it's vocally, maybe it's influencing the game, getting other players involved, or just closing out even more down the stretch. The same thing goes for Zach Levine. When if you want to watch some of these Bulls games, he was already doing that. But like I said, just that mentality, when you become an all-star, then you are already expecting greatness of yourself because everybody else is as well. Like you've been voted in by not just the people you play with, but obviously the fans as well.
Yeah. Zach, man, what on the Eastern Conference, what team is what team is on your mind? Like, what do you think? What team do you think's gonna make some noise in the playoffs? What's going on with you?
Well, I mean, I was just looking at the standings, like as far as the games won, and it's going from 7 to 4 is like a game or two, so I guess it's whoever can keep going. The Knicks have kind of shown faltering stuff, but they have the vets, and other than who knows what's happening to Kevin Knox, I always have faith in him every year, and I don't know where he is. But then the Raptors are right in there. I don't know. I think though, like Derek was saying, I think everything's gonna stay pretty close to that. I don't really see anybody pushing up into, the Raptors could go, or the Pacers, maybe the Bulls. I don't think the Wizards. I hate that. I mean, I hate that for Bradley Beal so much, but I don't think they're gonna do it this year. Maybe they will though. Who knows? But the way the Hornets have been playing, and I mean, everybody in the top 5 I don't see them moving past that. Everybody's fighting for the last 3 spots.
Yeah, it's a crazy Eastern Conference.
It really is.
Speaking of that, like Blake Griffin is on the Nets. And I know we were talking about it in the previous run there. What does he bring to this team?
I mean, I think you definitely have leadership. As much as people say that he's not athletic anymore or whatever, I mean, he still is. He's shown that he could shoot the 3 ball where it went last, after he got hurt. I mean, it's been a while since he played, and I think people wrote him off. And I always love watching somebody come back from people writing him off. And what better place? And granted, too, if I read correctly, he did pay $13 million to end his contract, right? I'm pretty sure that he paid out of his pocket to go.
Wow.
So,
well, yeah, anytime there's like a buyout, they're usually obviously giving up money.
Yeah,
that's a good chunk of money.
Like, I mean, but and I think he's making like 1.2 million or something to play this year.
I mean, who wouldn't buy themselves out of a contract in Detroit? You're at the worst team in the league.
God, they're so bad.
And then turn around and except for Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant is a baller. But then, but you buy yourself out, and then you get to go to the one of the best ensembles of players ever put together. It's like crazy.
That's pretty funny.
But much love to Jeremy Grant. I think he's a baller. He's one of my favorite players in the league. But yeah, I'll leave that. He is on a really bad team. but he
I mean, the
wants to be.
Pistons have pieces, but
Oh man, we don't need to talk about the Pistons.
they might be the new Knicks. I don't know if that's too much of a low blow or not, but
Dwayne Casey probably goes home every night and drinks a half a bottle of liquor and goes to sleep.
You're probably right.
He's probably mad.
Funny.
He leaves Toronto and they go win a championship. My assistant coach won the championship. Ah.
And then he got coach of the year too that year, didn't he?
Who? Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse did. Yeah.
Yeah. So not only did he win, but then he got coach of the year too.
Yeah, I mean, Dwayne Casey's a hard-nosed coach, man. When he's got the right pieces, man, he has good teams, but for some reason he could not beat anybody. Could not beat LeBron, man. Definitely could not beat LeBron, man.
Yeah, definitely. I don't put that on DeRozan at all, I would say.
Yeah.
The system just didn't work.
Well, they put all their scoring on DeRozan. And I mean, it was just a different thing then. DeRozan's a totally different player now.
Yeah,
he should have been an all-star, honestly. Don't y'all think so?
Nah, I mean, I agree 100%.
Yeah. So
I guess though, are we at the point now though where it's so tight that maybe though you deserve it, you just don't make it? Because I mean, they only have, what is it, 5 and then a reserve on each one, right? So it says 12.
It's like 7 or 8 reserves actually. Pretty big.
Okay. So, well, I mean, either way. So, like, but in the league, that's not that many people.
No, it really isn't. And your big name guys are going to make the all-star team. I mean, I remember back in the 90s, and I don't know if you guys remember or not, but Tim Hardaway was playing his ass off. Like, he was phenomenal player, and he should have started the All-Star game next to Michael Jordan, but Penny Hardaway did, and Penny Hardaway did not have a good season. Penny Hardaway honestly shouldn't even been on the All-Star team that year. That was maybe the second season he didn't have Shaq. That was right when he was on his way out of Orlando. And because, I mean, don't get me wrong, Penny Hardaway was an amazing player, but and one of my favorite players. I loved him when I was in high school, a younger guy, man. But Tim Hardaway should have been the starter at that point. But that's just how it goes. They're going to put people in the All-Star game that they're going to get voted in by the fans, like the top tier guys, and then after that, it's up to the coaches and Adam Silver. Adam Silver usually does like the replacements in case they're hurt, which I thought he did a good job this year.
Yeah, they had quite a few, with the COVID and Simmons and Embiid, and
yeah,
that was like 4 of them, wasn't it? I think it was 4.
Yeah, Davis, Durant, Embiid, Booker. Who else was out of the All-Star game?
Simmons.
Yeah, Simmons didn't. Yeah, he didn't play the All-Star game, did he?
Because he's still out. He sat out through. He plays tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's in my injured reserve.
Speaking of Simmons and the 76ers, Derek, what do you think, man? Do you think they're going to ride all the way into the playoffs to that number 1 seed and then take it to the hole? Or you think Milwaukee or Brooklyn or even Miami will end up showing them up?
No, actually, I think, like I said, I made a bold prediction of that's my team coming out the East, and I'm sticking with that. And as far as them being number 1, I mean, it's so tight, so it's like a toss-up, but Embiid and Simmons are not out due to injuries. They're just out because of potential COVID contact. So, yeah, injuries aside, I don't see them really falling off much. So even if going down the stretch, you run into some of these tougher teams, but you win all the other games, and especially easy ones, you don't really have much drop off there. But for them, even when it comes to the buyout or trade market, they might look to get maybe a veteran person like PJ Tucker, another 3-and-D guy. If he's available for you, I mean, he's going to have plenty option to go to, but maybe just a small player like that on the buyout market, but nothing too serious. I mean, Joel Embiid himself said the other day after, I guess Wednesday's game, maybe when him and Simmons obviously were out, they had Tony Bradley starting, but they were playing the Chicago Bulls, and he had tweeted out that he was like, making a joke, but he said that they should build around Tony Bradley. But whenever you have a supporting cast where they could fill in for like those easier games, you're talking down the stretch, they're matching up with the Bulls again. I haven't looked at their schedule, and you got players that can take care of those games for you, then Joel Embiid can get his rest. And like I mentioned before, when we were talking about him being a potential MVP this year, it's the first time we've seen Joel Embiid with all this health. So he's just playing at a high rate. And I've even mentioned, we were talking in my podcast about the Sixers, and we were talking about how the matchup, even if Brooklyn got Drummond, that Joel Embiid's just a tough matchup for them because of his footwork, and he's able to draw fouls. So if you're like a flat-footed defender and you're big like a Drummond, that's not going to really work to your advantage. You have to exploit them some other way, which will possibly be Simmons, leave him open on the perimeter if he's not going to take threes. But I like what they have going on, where they added Danny Green and Seth Curry, who's a prolific marksman as far as percentage from the three. And then just alone, going back to coaching, to me, I'm going to just say that's the biggest thing that's going to separate or bolster anybody in the Eastern Conference. It's the coaching, not the players. The players are already making the difference now as far as like the impact of where they're standing for the regular season. But going into the postseason, that's why they have Doc Rivers. That's why Spoelstra is still the Miami Heat coach after LeBron left. They didn't make it back to the finals until last year, but he was just that consistently great coach. That's why the Knicks are where they're at. That's why the Milwaukee Bucks are where they're at, because of Budenholzer. Years ago having the Atlanta Hawks with 4 All-Stars that one year, and Brad Stevens obviously isn't a bad coach. So that to me is what can possibly separate who's going to come out in the East. But yeah, don't get me wrong, Brooklyn has tremendous talent, but your coach has to make that work and make your players stay in check when times get rough, because you're going to have times where they get rough. And I've said this before as well, when it comes to playoffs, it's a 7-game series. It's not a one game series. So if you have a great coach as your opponent, it's almost like a 6-man there, because they're going to study you. You might win this one, but it's a 7-game series. That's why we have comebacks, because of coaching and adjustments. So if you're a team that can't adjust very often for your system, then you're solely dependent on talent. And sometimes that talent doesn't show up. And I think B just joined us, and he could probably vouch. We talked about it as far as how some of the players, if we're going towards the Nets, James Harden in the past with all the Rockets playoffs he's had, where sometimes he kind of unfolds a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I mean, for me, if you're a Philly fan, I'm not worried about the Sixers at all. They're definitely going to be in the top 3, but I'll go ahead and say they're going to be definitely 1 or 2, but I'll say they're at number 1 to end the regular season if they don't get any COVID cases going down the stretch or injuries to Joel Embiid or Simmons.
Definitely. So Byron, what's up?
Hey Micah, how are you doing tonight?
Welcome to the NBA podcast here at Tavern Geek.
Thanks for having me. Sorry, I had some technical difficulties, so I'm a little late. But
it's okay.
You're still beautiful.
I just got up. It's been a long day.
I feel you. Well, we're excited to have you here tonight. For everybody out there that's never heard Byron before on one of our podcasts here at Tavern Geek, Byron is a good friend of ours, and we're excited to have him here. He's well versed in the worlds of sports and beer, and especially geek stuff, as well as Star Wars, Batman, and video games. So it's really nice to have him here. But yeah, Byron, we're talking about we're getting ready to jump into the Western Conference real quick on the back end of this episode. And we were just talking about the Eastern Conference. We were talking about your team, the 76ers. Derek just got done talking about them and the coaching and how well they've done. As a Sixers fan, how excited are you right now being at the top of the East?
I couldn't be happier right now. I think they're a really complete team. Simmons is starting to show the willingness to shoot, which we haven't seen from him before. I'm hoping that trend continues to improve. I don't want to continue my mantra of I want the Sixers to bury me so they can let me down one more time. I'm hoping this is that they really do something.
Heck yeah. It's really awesome to see where they're at, especially because Doc Rivers. I mean, we were just talking about how awesome it is. Before we leave the Eastern Conference, Zach, do you have any other insight? What any other team you think that might jump the bar?
I mean, there's always the Hawks. I still say, I know I threw that out there before, but they're in there. They're knocking on the door, whether or not they're fighting that closely with the Knicks and Hornets and Raptors and how
They're
even
hanging
the
in
Pacers
there.
and Bulls. But I mean, they're I don't know. And, Trae Young could go off. Like, he could start dropping triple doubles. I mean, realistically, probably not, but, definitely very high double doubles. And if Collins shows up and Gallinari did what he was supposed to do when they got him, or also when I got him in my fantasy league, but we'll leave that to the side. But I mean, they have a lot of pieces. Like Capella's there. They're a solid team. I just don't know if they have the, like I said earlier, at this point, it's who's gonna continue. People are playing well and teams are really close, and even through like 4 through 10, the game difference is like 4 or 5. It's not that big. People can change it. You could be in 11th spot and end up in 6th spot. But so, I mean, I think they could push up higher. But I still think they'll make the playoffs. But that's one team I'm hoping to see, because then if they get there, in a series, then we'll see where it's at.
Yeah, definitely. They have a lot of talent. They have a lot of players that I thought were going to do a lot of different things for them. Obviously, we haven't seen that. Rondo, Bogdanovic. Bogdanovic got hurt, but still, I'm a big fan of Herter. And I didn't really think they needed Bogdanovic, but that's I'm not a professional general manager, so I'm just a guy.
You're doing a good job at it, though.
But yeah, man, the Hawks. I mean, they're hanging in there. I mean, that bottom half of the Eastern Conference. But on to the Western Conference here. Of course, we've got Utah hanging out at the first seed. And again, I pulled these standings from yesterday, so everything could have changed. Phoenix is hanging out there at second. The Lakers are at third, Clippers at fourth, Portland's at fifth, and the Nuggets are hanging in at sixth. Is this all accurate, guys?
I think the Nuggets are above the Blazers now. They both have the same record, so I don't know why that changed, but at least when I looked it up.
Yeah. Derek, man, what who's your Western Conference guy? I mean, team. What?
I mean, sorry, specifically which what are you asking as far as to win or that
No,
needs improvement?
Not really that, but what team do you think is the team that's going to really make some noise in the playoffs?
Oh, okay, yeah, I can answer that. Oh, I did want to touch up on what Zach was saying with the Hawks.
Oh,
I
okay.
agree with what he was saying as far as them potentially climbing up. I think they had a semi restart, like a semi hard restart, because they did fire their head coach. So they are looking to hopefully go in an upwards direction with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, I just wanted to give a quick mention to watch out for Giannis, because I saw a highlight and it looks like he's still playing in the All-Star game. Like he's getting more confident shooting the three. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, if he starts draining threes, it's over. It's over, man.
He's still having fun, so I guess he'll keep shooting them until he misses. But yeah, as far as the West, I mean, again, it's everything's so tight. So you see some traditional teams that normally make the Western Conference playoffs, but they're a little bit towards the bottom, and some things are a little bit shaky here. But it's starting to form out a little bit. I know on one of our earlier episodes, we kind of touched on the Pelicans and the Grizzlies as far as between us, who we thought would maybe be in that 8th seed. But right now, Dallas is sitting there. But the team that will push the most should be the Phoenix Suns, because they're proven already that they deserve to be in the playoffs. They're sitting at number 2 right now. But when you add the veteran savviness of Chris Paul, again, like I said before, Devin Booker played his butt off in the playoff bubble. They went 5-0. They just couldn't make it in the playoffs to the playoffs because of their record. But
it was 8, wasn't it?
Was it 8-0? Maybe it
was.
wasn't.
Yeah,
8.
they didn't lose.
Yeah, they went 8-0.
My bad. Yeah, so 8-0 even more impressive than 5 games in a row. So didn't lose a bubble game, but just where they were at, it was a continuation to start the year. I mean, Devin Booker was a little bit sluggish getting going, but he's just back to where he was then. And then you have a motivated Chris Paul who's on a winning team and willing to work with these younger guys. So I'd be shocked at this point. I mean, it's going to be tough, but I'll be shocked at this point if they don't make it through the first round. I mean, you're talking right now, the San Antonio Spurs would be their matchup, but, I hate to throw Portland in there. I think they could probably stay.
I mean, I was going to say, unless it's against Portland,
Well, I feel like Portland would probably stick where they're at in the mid-range there of 5 and 6. Denver's sitting at 5. I mean, right now it's looking pretty realistic. So I would say maybe Dallas moves up to that 7 spot, and depending on who they can get in there, if they don't get a decent quality big man, like we were talking about in the first half of this episode, then you're playing against Aiden without another, high caliber center. So they can definitely take that out maybe in 6 games or 5. But if it's a Spurs, okay, I don't see a problem there. Or if Golden State were to move up, I don't know, that'll be tricky, because their whole system is so heavily relied on Curry that they're going to be in my opinion, in the play-in portion.
Which
when
is
it comes in the
crazy.
season. That's anything between 7th to 10th seed.
Well,
but Phoenix is definitely my big surprise as far as a team that you look at last year compared to this year. They made a tremendous stride.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of teams in the Western Conference will probably have to pick up on the Western Conference in our next episode. But right now, since we've got Byron here, it's really awesome that when we get a guest on the show with us, that we put them to the test. So Byron, I'm going to put you to the test here. We're going to do a classic versus current challenge. So you get to pick 2 players in a one-on-one match. You pick someone that has played previous, that is retired, and you put them against someone who is playing currently. What do you got?
It's not like this is a lot of players or anything.
It's not like thousands of players.
Pushing 80 years. It's not like it's a ton of options here. Like the one player that I'm really enjoying watching a lot right now is Giannis, and I'm not sure who I can even see that was like that in the past. He's like an unprecedented player, but he's basically reminds me of like a younger Shaq with a better shot. Like he rebounds well, he finishes well, he defends, he's long. Shaq in Orlando prior to him signing with LA was a very diverse player, and he doesn't get a lot of the recognition because we know him for all the titles in LA and the title in Miami when he was an interior dominator. But during his Orlando run, he was handling the ball a lot more. He was taking a lot more shots that were outside of the around the basket. But obviously, like I say, when you're dealing with Giannis, he was a better shooter. He's a little leaner, which, like I say, kind of relates to Shaq in Orlando, having that mobility and length. Obviously, we're seeing Giannis in the current NBA kind of lean more towards, developing a jump shot because that's how the league's going and getting range. Whereas Shaq at his time went to bulking up and dominating the middle.
So you want to put Giannis against Shaq? Orlando Magic Shaq?
Orlando Magic Shaq, yeah. He was very down to watch.
All right.
I got a little bit of it.
All right. Zach, who do you got winning?
I'm gonna have to go with Shaq on that one. Only because there's no matter who you've ever had as a center, in my opinion, there's never gonna be anybody that was as dominant as him. Like when even in Orlando, even as lean as he was a monster, absolute monster. Nobody could stop him. When he hit that league, everyone was like, "Whoa!" Like, he would taking over a game as a center. Like, that's intense. Wasn't he one of the first MVPs as a center too? I think. Maybe I might be wrong.
Kareem had quite a few.
But yeah, so I'm wrong on that. But that's what I get for throwing that out of the left side of my brain. But anyway, on the other side though, too, I will give Giannis credit on, like Byron said, he does have an amazing shot. He is trying to shoot that three ball. I have seen videos of Shaq shooting threes as well, so that he can do that too. But as far as like dominating, if it was a one-on-one, I'm gonna go with Shaq.
Derek, where are you at with this?
Yeah, I'll probably agree with Zach. I'll probably go with Shaq, to be honest. Usually I try to give the other person some credit, but just unless we're talking about like the Giannis MVP, All-Star MVP card from this past game where he's not missing anything behind the arc. But if you're wanting to drive it in on Shaq, just a very smart defender because he knows when to jump. You know what I mean? Like he knows when to get in the air, and he's got incredible reach, and he's slightly taller than Giannis. So just from that one-on-one perspective, that's who I'm going with, and even probably career perspective, as far as who was more dominating, just probably Shaq.
Awesome, Byron. I don't think you got to finish who you had coming out on winning that matchup. Who you got?
I do give Shaq the slight edge. Of course, Giannis still developing as a player. But yeah, a lot of people don't give credit to Shaq for the shooter that he actually was. He was an excellent shooter in his college career, and in his, like I say, in his early parts. That's why I liked Orlando Shaq against him. Because in the current NBA, I still think Shaq probably develops similarly to Giannis. He keeps working on his range, but at that era, the centers were more important, playing and dominating the interior. But I do give Shaq the slight edge. But like I say, I'm really interested in seeing how Giannis's career continues going forward, and who knows? Maybe he continues to bulk up and develops a shot. I'm really interested in how that goes going forward. But yeah, definitely at this point in his career against Orlando Shaq, yeah, I give Shaq the nod there.
Yeah, I'm jumping on the train with you guys. I honestly think that if they're playing 1-on-1 and they're in the post, Giannis will get thrown around. Shaq was a freak of nature. It was like, I mean, I'm not saying that Giannis isn't a big, strong guy. It's kind of like putting the Incredible Hulk up against Luke Cage. He's not backing him down, and he's going to get swatted. Now, if they're going 1-on-1 and they're running against each other, Giannis has got him with speed all day long. But if you're in a 1-on-1 setting, and Shaq gets his body towards you and he's got his wingspan out there, he's not getting to the hoop real well. It's gonna be a lot of pressure. So yeah, I'm with Shaq on that. But once again, this has just been a great matchup, and Shaq's been a popular dude on these classic versus currents. I think did Romy have Shaq against DeAndre Ayton, or was it Chamberlain?
Wilt.
Who?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can't remember. We had Shaq on another one, but I don't remember what it was. But yeah, this was a good one because we haven't had Giannis yet. So yeah, that was a good one, Byron. Really excited that you brought that up. Real quick parting shot here before we get out of here, Derek. Let everybody know about what's going on in your on your podcast and your YouTube and your Twitter. Let them know where to find you.
Yeah, I'm not too active on Twitter right now, but as far as our YouTube and our podcast, you can find our podcast on anchor.fm. I think it's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Pocket Cast, just to name a few. Is Kish YZ, KISHYZ, for Kicking in the Second Half, which is basically just a spinoff of this show. And we have a few other guys, like an extended family, so to speak, that